his career, supposedly, Lamarcus Aldridge. This postseason was not his best. He's got 2 years left on his deal, stands to make over $21 million next season. So, I mean, people say, oh, they should trade him. But, I mean, what is the trade market for him going forward? Or should they keep him and try to sort of conform him to more of the player they want him to be?
All right, now, so to sell now is to sell at the absolute lowest of the stock, where he's just been terrible. Everybody's making jokes. Why would you try to trade him now?
Right.
You might as well hold on to him, let him play well again, because he has played well in a Spurs uniform. He was All-NBA a year ago. So it's not like he's completely garbage. It's just he had a bad playoff series against the best team in the league, where admittedly he didn't show up. I'm not defending him. I'm just saying if I'm trying to trade him, I'm going to wait till he builds his value back up till I can find a sucker. I'm not going to try and sell him when he's low.
Well, I mean, the series before that, he only showed up once or twice, too. I mean, first of all, San Antonio, when they got him, obviously thought, this is a great replacement for Tim Duncan.
Wrong.
And I think they're finding out, no, this is not really working out the way we planned it.
Right.
The kid just has to show. I mean, like you said, he's shown that he has skill, that he can produce on this level.
Right.
But sometimes, when he disappears, he disappears. And he's almost trying to hide, it seems like to me, instead of taking that step forward and accepting the challenge. And that's the one thing I think that most Spurs fans and the people in the front office are kind of surprised about.
Yeah, I think it's unfair to him that they wanted him to step in and be Tim Duncan. He's not Tim Duncan. He's never been Tim Duncan.
Paid him a lot of money.
But he's never been that type of player. He's been an outside scorer, a guy that loves shooting jump shots, and that's not what the Spurs are accustomed to. They're accustomed to a low-post guy where they can play off of him, cutting, doing those certain things, and Aldridge just don't fit that. It's just not the type of player that he is.
I think the other thing is, when they signed him, I didn't think he was a good fit for their culture. So not just the basketball stuff that Scotty's talking about, but even accepting things. So, for instance, we talk about Manu. Pops went to Manu in his prime and said, come off the bench.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Right? If you tell Lamarcus Aldridge play center, he gives you that. That's not the Spurs way. The Spurs way is we do whatever it takes. And so I didn't think
it's all about the team.
Yeah, he didn't buy into that culture. I didn't think he was a good fit.
Well, they pursued him hard as a free agent. It was a little bit of a surprise that he ended up going there. And there's another big question mark for them with free agency. Look, point guard position, we don't know what's going to happen with Tony Parker. He's got 1 year left on his deal, but he's heading into his 17th season. Of course, had the major injury. A lot of people wondering, how about Chris Paul, who can opt out of his deal this summer, go anywhere he wants? Would he want to move to San Antonio and try to take on the Warriors now with Kawhi Leonard and Greg Popovich as opposed to with the Clippers?
If you have an opportunity to get Chris Paul, this is a no-brainer. I don't know, no Chris Paul for me. The Warriors have Steph Curry. I bet you if they could get Chris Paul, they'd try and do it too. Because you just add another great Hall of Fame player.
I'm not sure that they would, actually.
I agree with you. I think Chris, first of all, everything's in his corner.
Right.
He can opt out this deal, and at the end of the day, if he wants to go back to the Clippers, they're going to pay him a ton of money.
Yeah.
But I would definitely look at San Antonio as a destination. With the history of that franchise, Tony Parker, we know, is pretty much done as well, even though he has 1 year left. But you're now, side by side with one of the best players in this league, Kawhi, who's getting better each year. And with those two guys, you can go out and tell other free agents, listen, we got Chris Paul and we got Kawhi Leonard. We just need you to be that third guy. And we got Greg Popovich, arguably the best coach in this league. And we got...
okay.
I'm going to disagree with you guys because I think it's going to be another failed trade. I think it's going to be a lot like Aldridge. Chris Paul is a guy who plays a lot like Westbrook. He needs to keep the ball in his hand. He makes plays for you on the offensive end. I don't think that's a good fit for the San Antonio style of play.
That's interesting.
But he makes players better.
I believe that. I'm not knocking his play. I'm saying the way that he plays is not going to fit with San Antonio. He played the same way in New Orleans that he played here with the Clippers.
Right. He is who he is. You're not changing Chris Paul. That's certainly true. And look, if Powell doesn't opt out, it would be hard to make the money work even to go after him. Although I think R.C. Buford can pretty much do anything he wants as far as I think he can figure it out. But yes, it would be complicated. And Byron, as you point out, the Clippers are still the ones who can give him the boatload of money. But it's interesting, if you have the opportunity to win a championship more in one place than the other place, how do you make that decision? We're going to see a lot of that this summer.
I think he got his best chance in LA.
That's at least a lunch. Sit down and talk about it.
Have lunch, have a glass of wine with Pop. I mean, they know they're going to do that. Up next, Mr. Kobe Bean Bryant will break down the Warriors' offense for you, and I will also ask the guys if it was smart of the Warriors owner to call out the Cavs last night. You can spoiler alert what they think about that one. But first, Mike Brown and our own Mark Spears. A little too much fun on SportsCenter last night. Take a look.
How are you spending tonight? What is the celebration? What are you going to do?
I'm about to go back there and eat some tacos before I get on this plane. And then my man Q-Dog's going to fire up the Beats Pill. And we're going to listen to some music and take off to get back to the Bay Area.
If you were DJing, what would you play?
Ooh, Too Short. It's back in Oakland. I probably shouldn't have said that on camera.